Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope that you can hear us. We will start the webinar very shortly. Maybe as a few words, welcome to this webinar on the CBAM Transitional Registry. This event is organized by the Directorate General Taxation and Customs Union, DG TaxSud of the European Commission. My name is Maxime Monléon, and I'm part of the TaxSud CBAM team. And again, we would like to thank you for being here. In the past weeks, we have organized a series of webinars focusing on the sectors covered by the CBAM, namely the cement, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity, hydrogen, and 2 webinars on iron and steel. Today is the first webinar on the Transitional Registry, and it will introduce you to the registry and focus on how to use the registry and its functionalities and how to get access to it. Other webinars will follow later with some sector-specific content. There are many participants in this meeting, so please let me quickly introduce you a few rules about the webinar. Please make sure that you appear in Zoom with your name and affiliation. If needed, please update your name by following the steps shown on the screen. And this is very useful for us when addressing the questions that you will send us, and so that we can address them later during the question and answer session. You may have noticed already that as a participant, you are muted during the webinar. You may write questions in the chat. The chat is available for all participants to write their questions. Please note that the questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. Please also note that we are recording this webinar and that you are not allowed to record it yourselves. However, the recording will be made public on the TaxSud website, on the CBAM dedicated webpage, so you will be able to watch it after the webinar as many times as you want. During this webinar, we invite you to focus your questions on the CBAM Transitional Registry and no other aspect except for the introduction. Some general reminders of the reporting obligations will be covered during that webinar. Let me also stress this point because in the previous webinars, some participants had questions on the definitive period of the CBAM, but due to time constraints, we will most likely only respond to the ones that are focused on the Transitional Registry. Like I said, it's very important to note that the presentations and the recording will be made available on the website, but they are only meant to help you prepare for the CBAM, and in that case, for this webinar, use the Transitional Registry. In no circumstances, they can be interpreted as definitive views expressed by the European Commission, and they are not legally binding. Let me just navigate you through the objective of this session. Next slide, please. With this webinar, we would like to present as an introduction, some rules about the reporting obligations. For those of you who attended one or several webinars in the past or have watched the recordings online, there will be useful reminders. But for those who have not, I think we believe it's very important for first step. And then for part 2 and part 3, we will dive into the content, the main objective of this webinar. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Maria Elena Scopio, the Director for Indirect Taxation and Tax Administration at DG TaxSud, to say a few words. Please, Elena, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can all hear me, and I would just like to welcome you to this new webinar.
Yes, we can.
Super, thanks a lot. On the Transitional Registry. I imagine that several of you have already participated in the previous sectoral webinars, so I am not going to repeat what CBAM is. You all know that we are all here together to try to implement this in the best way possible, considering that there is no planet B, and we cannot just water down our ambition by risking carbon leakage in other countries that are not following what we are doing. It has to be said that we are seeing more and more countries that are interested in following our example, and probably not even to follow us, but they had that in mind, because this crisis is unprecedented and has to be tackled immediately. So what you are experiencing with CBAM, what you will be experiencing with CBAM, is only going to prepare you for something that is going to be more expanded in the future. And it's going to give you an advantage if you want. So I would try to take it in a very positive way, because more will be to come. For this purpose, we are today trying to explain you, together with my colleagues, how to deal with the formalities during the transitional period. You're going to be explained how to access the CBAM Transitional Registry. You will be reminded that that obligation is not immediate. It will only have to be dealt with next year. But it is important to get ready, to be prepared. And should there be any issue, don't worry, because this is a learning curve, but this is a learning phase for everyone. Just let me finish by saying that this, like all the other webinars, will be recorded, as you have heard, and that you will be able to find it in the dedicated web page that will be continuously updated and will also have additional material for learning and for using the system. This will be translated in all major spoken languages in the world. And should you have additional questions, we hope we will be able to cater for your doubts. We're all in this together. We are also trying from the start to make it work. I only would like to add that we are all at your disposal again, me personally on top. So without waiting too much more, I would like to leave you to my colleagues who will guide you through this very important aspect of the CBAM procedure. Thank you very much and have a nice webinar.
Thank you very much, Elena, for providing us with a great reminder of the rationale behind the CBAM. Now, next slide, please move. Let's move to the general overview of the reporting obligations. So maybe as a first reminder, the CBAM was officially adopted and entered into force in May this year. And in August, the EU also adopted the implementing regulation, which lays down the reporting rules for the transitional period. The transitional period started as 1st of October. The transitional period is a bit more than 2-year period during which the CBAM will focus on two things: monitoring and reporting. Monitoring because, like Elena said, this is a learning phase for all of us, during which we will collect relevant information on the embedded carbon content of goods covered by the CBAM regulation and imported into the EU. The information we collect will help refine the rules applicable in the definitive phase. Basically, it is about rolling out of the system and preparing, preparing everyone, including ourselves and the member states authorities, for the smooth kicking of the definitive phase of the CBAM as from January 2026. The second aspect is reporting, because during that period, reporting declarants, essentially importers, will only need to comply with the reporting obligations. This is very important to stress that during the transitional period, there will be no financial adjustment and there will be no obligation for declarants to buy certificates, CBAM certificates, and surrender CBAM certificates during that period. However, the monitoring means that importers have to submit quarterly reports describing the embedded content, carbon content of the emissions of CBAM goods imported into the EU. And the CBAM reports will essentially contain the information as shown on the screen. And we provided further details on that content during the sector-specific webinars, and we encourage you to watch them if needed. Two last words on this. You may be wondering why the carbon price paid in the country of origin may need to be reported. It is also, even if there is no financial obligation during the transitional period. This is because importers may receive a deduction for the carbon price they paid during the definitive phase, and we need, during the first phase, the transitional one, to collect data already on the carbon price that exists in other countries, so that we learn about it and we can start the providing deductions as from 2026. Last aspect about the direct and indirect emissions, and this is the same objective, to collect the data, and this data will help us refine the mechanism during the definitive phase if needed. A word about sanctions. Member states' national competent authorities may indeed impose penalties, but penalties may only be imposed during that phase only for failure to comply with the reporting obligations. For instance, where declarants have not taken any steps to submit the CBAM report, or there is a clear bad faith in the reporting or in the dialogue between the reporting declarant and the national authority. So this slide clarifies the difference between importers and reporting declarants. CBAM goods covered by the CBAM, the goods imported into the EU, are subject to the reporting obligation. But who is responsible for carrying out this reporting obligation? It is often the importer of the good who is a reporting declarant, meaning the person responsible for undertaking the CBAM reporting. But there may be some different cases. So the first question is whether the importer is based in the EU or not. If the importer is not based in the EU, then it is straightforward. The importer must appoint an indirect custom representative to be the reporting declarant for CBAM purposes. There is no other choice. However, if the importer is based in the EU, then there are several possibilities. Either the importer chooses to be the reporting declarant for CBAM purposes, or the importer can appoint a customs representative. If the importer decides to appoint a customs representative, then this representative can be either a direct representative or an indirect representative. However, it is very important to stress that in that case, only the indirect customs representative can bear the responsibility for CBAM reporting obligation. The direct customs representative cannot. The CBAM declarant in that case will be the importer, not the direct customs representative. Finally, please note there is no specific authorization procedure for national competent authorities to grant the reporting declarant status during the transitional period. This means that you will be able to undertake the reporting as soon as you receive the credentials from the national competent authority, and as soon as the reporting period opens, of course. However, please note that for the definitive period, so as from 2026, there will be a specific procedure to grant, for national competent authorities, to grant the authorized CBAM declarant. And this procedure will be introduced as from 2025, ahead of the entry into force in 2026 of the definitive period, to allow some time for importers to prepare. Now let's have a quick look at a snapshot of the actors in the CBAM field. So of course, if we start from the operators of installation, these are the people managing the installation, producing the CBAM goods in non-EU countries, and then goods which are later exported to the EU. Then we have the reporting declarants. So in that case, like I said, either the importer or the indirect custom representative, and they are in charge of collecting the information which are relevant for complying with the CBAM reporting obligations from the operators of installation, and they are responsible for submitting CBAM reports. Then we have national authorities. Two main national authorities, the customs authorities They are in charge of informing the reporting declarants of their CBAM obligations, and they can check the EORI number of the importers, and they also provide relevant data to the Commission. Then we have the national competent authorities, still at member states level, and they are in charge of checking the CBAM reports and engaging in the dialogue with the reporting declarants. And ultimately, they are responsible for ensuring the compliance with the CBAM rules and requirements. And like I said, as from 2025, for the definitive period as from 2026, they will start granting the status of authorized CBAM declarant. And finally, the European Commission. The European Commission is in charge of reviewing the CBAM reports submitted by the importers. Then the European Commission is also in charge of communicating to the national competent authorities a list of reports for which it has reasons to believe that they are not compliant with the CBAM rules. And with that help from the Commission, like I said, the national competent authorities will be in charge of ensuring the compliance with the rules. And as a general note, the European Commission is in charge of monitoring the implementation of CBAM. How is it, like I said, implemented? How is it progressing? And whether there are any risk of circumvention. But this is a snapshot. But beyond each and everyone's role, it is very important to stress that the CBAM, the implementation of CBAM, requires a regular dialogue and a communication between various actors. I mentioned between, of course, national authorities, the Commission, but also the reporting declarants. And it's very important to stress that important level of communication. The importance of the level of communication is also shown on that on this snapshot. Basically, how to report, and of course, my colleagues will provide further details on that. But this shows you, gives you a general overview of how it works. The CBAM reports will have to be submitted by the reporting declarants on the CBAM Transitional Registry, which is a standardized and secured electronic database developed and managed by the Commission to ensure the efficient implementation of the reporting obligations. That registry will also collect the information reported during the transitional period. It was deployed for the start of the transitional period on 1st of October this year. And the reporting declarants will be able to undertake the reporting as soon as they receive the credentials from the national competent authority where they are established, and as soon as the reporting period opens. For the first report, so October to December 2023, this year, the reporting period will open 1st January 2024. The transitional registry will also be used for communication between the various actors in the CBAM, between the Commission, between the national competent authorities, also with the reporting declarants. However, please note, as you can see on the screen, that the Commission will not dialogue with the reporting declarants. Only the national competent authorities via the registry and also the customs authorities, but this can also take place outside the registry in the usual and regular customs communication between customs authorities and the importers. Very important to stress that in no circumstances the information stored in that registry will be made accessible to non-users of the registry. It is not accessible to the public. All the data and all communication exchanges between the different users of the transitional registry will be kept secured and confidential. Very important to stress. And the registry will not be used for enforcement either, because the information collected during the transitional period will only serve to feed into the data analysis and collection during the transitional period. Of course, as you can imagine, that transitional registry will be used as a basis for the development and establishment of the CBAM registry, which will be used for the definitive period. So on this slide, you can find the timelines and of the reporting requirements during the transitional period. As a start, you have, as an importer, as a reporting declarant, 4 general rules to remember. First, there is the monitoring period. This is by default the calendar year. It can also be an alternative calendar, provided that certain conditions are met. And we provide some more details on that during the sector-specific webinars. The second is the quarter. The quarter is the period during which goods are imported into the EU, and for which the CBAM report will have to report the goods and the embedded emissions of the goods imported into the EU. Then we have the deadline to report. It is as a general rule, it is the end of the month following the past quarter. And then there is finally the fourth timeline, the fourth deadline to remember, which is the one to amend or correct the report 1 more month. However, as you can see on the screen, some flexibilities have been provided in the implementing regulation that I mentioned, the one governing the rules for the transitional period. For the first 2 CBAM reports, which are due respectively for the 31st of January and 30th of April, these 2 first CBAM reports will be, it will be possible for reporting declarants to amend and correct until the end of July 2024. And then after this deadline, the general rules that I mentioned will apply. Like I said, please remember that for the first CBAM report, so the one from October to December, the reporting period, so the period during which reporting declarants will be able to report, will start on the 1st of January 2024, which means that if you have access to the registry because you receive the credentials from the national competent authority where you are established, then you can access the registry, you can get familiar with it. And my colleagues will run you through the registry in a few minutes, but you can only start reporting as from 1st January 2024. Just a comment on the definitive period. The CBAM reports will become CBAM declarations, and they will have to be submitted for an entire calendar year, which means that the first CBAM declarations to submit in the definitive period will have to be for the 2026 year. Finally, I would like to just mention the fact that we have provided a provisional list of EU member states' national competent authorities list on the CBAM dedicated webpage. We will update it very regularly, and we are currently in the process of updating it. You can find it online, and you will be able to log in as soon as you receive, like I said, the credential from the national competent authority. And now I will give the floor to my colleagues who will run you through the rest of the presentation on the CBAM Transitional Registry. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxime. Good morning to all. My name is Mathilde Passa, and I'm a member of the CBAM team in ITSM 3TES. At the following slides, we will explain how to request access and support for the traditional CBAM registry. As it is already mentioned, the first step for the CBAM declarants to succeed in all the above tasks is to ask for access to the CBAM Transitional Registry. Let's see how to request access. In order for you to be able to ask for a new account or delete an existing one, you should send a request for service to your National Service Desk. So, from your National Service Desk, you should ask either for a new account or for a deleting of your existing account. So, it is especially important for the CBAM declarants to request access through their National Service Desks. For that, the CBAM declarants should refer to the contact point of the National Competent Authority of the member state where they are established, as provided on the CBAM dedicated webpage, the one that already mentioned by Maxime. our colleague Maria will show later all the details on the public Europa site, which is the dedicated web page. Here, we should clarify that concerning the CBAM declarants, the national competent authorities are represented by each national service desk. This means that the CBAM declarants should communicate to their national service desk for any kind of support. Let us see the general steps for support. A CBAM declarant may face user access management issues during the procedure or logging in to the CBAM Transitional Registry. An example of such issue is when the CBAM declarant receives an error at the login page if the request for granting access to the CBAM portal is completed successfully. In this case, the CBAM declarant should contact the relevant national service desk for help. In case a CBAM declarant encounters an issue related to the submission of the quarterly report, very helpful material can be found on the public Europa site for eLearnings, user guides, and any relevant online material, as Maria will navigate us through at the next slides. If the CBAM declarant still has an issue or a question that is not answered at the public Europa site, a service request should be sent to the National Service Desk with a description of that issue. Summarizing the types of support that the CBAM declarants will receive by the National Service Desk, we could define three request categories. The first is the user access management support. The second is the technical support, and the third is the business support. Now let's elaborate on each category separately. The first support category, which is user access management, is for helping the CBAM declarants logging to the CBAM Transitional Registry. An example of that type of support is a request from a CBAM declarant when an error message is received while attempting to authenticate. The second support category, which is technical support, is related to requests or constraints that create a blocking point for the CBAM declarant. An example of that type of support is a request when a CBAM declarant chooses an option from a drop-down menu list when completing a declaration. The third support category, which is business support, is related to issues, explanations required that may create a blocking point for the CBAM declarant. An example of that type of support is a request referring to CBAM legislation. For instance, a CBAM declarant needs an explanation on the required data in a specific field of the declaration. Now I will give the floor to Maria to present all the helpful material that you can find on the public Europa site.
Thank you, Matilde. Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Piperia, and I'm a member of CBAM ITSM 3 test team. Now, let's continue and see some more things about the CBAM Europa site. The question is, what information you can find on the CBAM Europa site? First, you can find some helpful e-learnings, and we will see how we will get knowledge about the CBAM. In addition, there are available some guidance documents, and we will see what is the available documentation on the CBAM. Also, there are available some other webinars that have been performed during October, and we will see where can you find the CBAM webinars and how many categories are there. More important is that you can be informed about the regulation. There are some regulation documents are stored under the Europa site. And finally, we will see how to find the contact point from the Europa site for the CBAM. The next following slides contain the responses to all these questions. So, as you can see from this slide, there are some resources available. First of all, there are some e-learning courses. The first e-learning is a 10-minute video. It's an introduction about the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. And also you can find another course which is related to the cement sector. Also, there are 3 different guidance documents, and you can find here the 3 different links in order to have access directly to them. The last part here is the webinars. We have 6 different sectors: the cement, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity, hydrogen, and iron and steel. So from these links here, you can have access to them directly. The next slide, as you can imagine, represents the 3 legislative documents. Number 1 is the document related to the CBAM regulation in the official journal of the EU. The second document is related to the CBAM implementing regulation for the transitional phase. And the last one, the third document, is related to the annexes to the CBAM implementing regulation for the transitional phase. I don't want to focus too much on these slides, so I would prefer to open the Europa site and explore there and explain to you where and how you can find all this information. So this is, as you can see, the Europa site. I will open it and navigate there in order to explain to you some more things. So from the Europa site, from the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism for the CBAM, you can find, first of all, the contents. Here you can see all the contents of this page. And you can have a short description of the CBAM, what is the CBAM, and what are the benefits of it. And of course, you can see which are the 6 different sectors. From this picture here, we can see that the 6 different sectors that we have already mentioned is the cement, iron and steel, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity, and hydrogen. Also, as you can see here, there is a 60-minute second video which explains it contains a very brief explanation of CBAM. So I would suggest you to go through it and watch it in order to understand some things better for CBAM. It's very useful for you. Now let's continue and see the legislative documents. As we explained before, there are three different legislative documents. The first one is the CBAM regulation in the official journal of the EU. The second one is the CBAM implementing regulation for the transitional phase. And the last one is the annexes to the CBAM implementing regulation from the transitional phase. You can easily download this locally on your computer by clicking this download button here. So now I will show you how you can download these documents. We can open, let's say, the first one. And here you can select the preferred language among these all 24 available languages. And also, it's important that you can select the type of the format, HTML or PDF. So let's say now that, for example, we want to download the English version in a PDF format. You can click this PDF icon and open it in a new tab. And from this page, you have the option to click on this save button from the above right corner and save it locally on your computer. So this is very important, and please keep in mind how you can download all these documents. Also, there are some guidance documents which are related to the CBAM installation for importers or goods into the EU and also outside the European Commission. It's important to mention at this point that there is an Excel spreadsheet which contains a lot of useful information for you and will help you and guide you on how you can declare your emissions. So I would suggest you to download and have a look on that. You can do that with the same way that I explained you before. Let's continue with the webinars. We have some webinars available on this page, were performed during October. And of course, you can watch these videos and download also the presentation. I will give you an example. Here you can see the 6 different sectors: cement, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity, hydrogen, iron and steel. So let's say now that you want to find more information about cement. You can go here and open this page. And what we can see from this page, of course, we can see the recording. If you click this play button, you can see the recording. Okay. And also, under the module resources, you can, sorry for that, you can see the presentation. This is the presentation of the cement webinar. And also, there is a CBAM fact sheet. This is a very useful document which contains a brief explanation about CBAM. It contains also the 6 different sectors, and you can find some useful information from this document. Let's continue with the e-learning courses. On the CBAM Europa site CBAM page, you can find some useful e-learnings. The first one is a general CBAM introduction. It's only a 10 minutes video, so you can go here and watch this video. It's important to mention that there is another webinar, which is related to the CBAM sector. Also, this webinar contains a very useful recording that you can watch. But for me, it's more important to mention that you can find a leaflet. This leaflet contains some information again about the CBAM, and you can check it to understand some more things better. But it's important also to check the second document, which contains some more things about the cement sector. You can find from here the objectives. You can find the carbon, some more information about the carbon leakage, the sectors, the certificates. Also, you can find the timeline that also Maxime mentioned before. You can find here some more information, the rules. It's a very useful document, and you can take your time to understand, to read it and understand better this functionality. Last but not least, under the further info, you can find again the CBAM fact sheet that I mentioned before. But for me, the most important thing that we have to mention here is that you can find some frequently asked questions for the CBAM. So if I open this file, you can see from here that we have available a lot of questions. And all these questions have a very detailed response. So if you have a lot of questions and maybe something it's not very clear for you, you can download this document, have a look in order to understand better. For example, who is responsible for the reporting, or what are the reporting obligations? As you can see here, a lot of questions are responded. Now, we strongly recommend you to navigate to the CBAM Europa site portal, download and review all these documents, and try to understand the purpose and how we will declare the missions. And please try to familiarize yourself with all this information. It will be very helpful for you. Now, how you can find the NCA contact points that Mathilde mentioned before for the support of the CBAM. As you can see here, under the Transitional CBAM Registry, there is a provisional list of CBAM national competent authorities, the NCA. So if I open this file, we can find here the NCA role. For example, the NCAs are responsible for granting authorization to the CBAM importers, to you. And also, there is a table which contains the member state, the country, and also the National Committee Authority. So you can easily find the contact details for the NCAs. You can select your country and also check the information that you want. Now, under the Transitional CBAM Registry, we can find the link to the CBAM Transitional Registry portal. So now I will open this portal to explain to you some more things. Let's explain now how you can log in and get access in the CBAM Registry portal. First, this is the where are you from page, the CBAM portal. So the first thing that you have to do here is to select the domain of the application you request access to. We have two options here. The first option is the carbon border adjustment mechanism, and the second one is the customs. This depends on the option that your NCA has selected for you. Let's say that for this training purpose, we select the carbon border adjustment mechanism. The second thing that you have to do is to select your country. So let's say that we will select the Belgium. The third option is to select the type of actor. As you can see here, we have the option economic operator or employee. In our case, we will select as example the economic operator. Also, you have to select the type of our ID. The type of ID is always your EORI number. And for the ID, you have three options available. Number one is the VAT. Number two is EORI number. And number three is eLearning account. Then you have to keep in mind that you have to mark this checkbox here down on the page in order to give your consent to request your identity profile information and share it with UUMDS and Customs EIS. And then you have to click the submit button in order to log into this page. Now I will not proceed here online to get access to the portal. I will continue, go back to the presentation, and I will continue from here. So, as I explained to you, here we have available the Europa, the CBAM portal for you, for the declarant, and you can find also all this information that I explained to you before on how you can get access and log in on the CBAM. Here, they are all available, so you can check it later on how you can log in. So if you, when you click the submit button, then automatically you will see on your screen the left picture here. So, and the next step is to go and enter your email on this white box. And then you have to click the next button. After that, you will see on your screen the right picture. And you have to enter on this white box your password and then click the sign button. This means that you have logged in successfully to the CBAM registry portal. As you can see from this picture, this is the CBAM homepage. Now, what information can we see from this page? First of all, we can see my quarterly reports, and this is very important for you, that this is the task that Maxime described to you in detail before, and you have to do it. Also, you have available the operators, the installations, my importers, and my profile information. This is my profile information contains some information related to you. Now, if you notice carefully, on the above left side, you can see three white lines. This is a drop-down list, as you can see. And if we click on this, we can see the same choices that are available under the home page. For example, my quarterly reports, operators, installations, my importers, and my profile information. So this is another way to navigate through the portal, and you can choose the way that you want to navigate and get access to the specific reports. Moreover, from the right above corner, you can find some other information. For example, you can find your EORI number, your name, and also your profile. Now, I will give the floor to my colleague Christos Hiliudakis, who will present to you a CBAM demo and explain to you how to fill in a quarterly report.
Thank you, Maria. Much appreciated. Hello, everyone. From me as well. My name is Christos. I'm also part of the ITSM3 test team working on CBAM, and we're going to do a short demo on how to fill in a report within the CBAM Transitional Registry. Just a small note here, this will be a brief view just so you can get a first feel of how to fill in a declaration within the CBAM Transitional Registry. Rest assured that within the coming weeks, there will be additional webinars that will include much more detailed, let's say, walkthroughs of how to fill in a declaration per sector. So just to give you a first feel of what the CBAM Transitional Registry looks like, let's go ahead and start the demo, Maria. Thank you. Right, so as you can see, essentially the dashboard allows you to create or upload a quarterly report. A report has a hierarchical structure with the header at the top. You can start by entering a name for your draft report, and then fill in the declarant details. Different panes display information about the importer or representative, as well as the competent authority. Then, the CBAM goods should be inserted one by one by using the buttons provided at the left pane. So essentially, you can type in the CN code and the system will auto-complete the related info retrieved from Tariq, as you can see on your screen now. Then, the country of origin should be selected from the respective menu. The next step is to fill in information related to the customs procedure, as well as the net mass and the respective measurement unit. The next step is to fill in information related to the customs procedure. The next step is essentially to enter the emissions. After selecting the installation country, information about the operator and contact details must be provided. Then the installation details can be entered or retrieved if previously saved in the registry. As you can see now, the installation details are being filled in. The next step is the declarant should fill in the net mass as well as the associated direct emissions. The commission or other rules can be selected. The actual data of the emissions are measured in tons. The indirect emissions must also be entered, including all relevant information, such as the emission factor, the source of electricity, and amount consumed. If the commission rules are selected, several values are pre-filled. Additional information and documents can be provided via the supplementary pane, such as certificates. Now, the system will save information when fully completed, but you can also save the draft so you can resume work later. The final step for the declarant is to add the reporting name and dates, as well as accept legal disclaimers, as you'll see momentarily on your screen. The validation and submission of the report can be executed via the top right buttons. The dashboard presents the unique identifier generated and allows you to track the status of the report during the whole life cycle. Now, please note that the user manual that will be uploaded on the Europa site will contain additional information. There will be additional webinars in the coming weeks. And of course, this recording will be available on the Europa site, so you can revisit the short demo that we presented. Now, at this stage, we propose to take a short 5-minute recess. And once that 5-minute recess is over, we can resume and answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
So let's resume our discussion, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. We received lots of questions about if we start with the list of national competent authorities. As mentioned during the presentation and shown on the screen, there's a provisional list on our website. Not all member states have appointed a national competent authority. They are in the process of doing so. So you can see on the website a provisional list. We are in the process of updating it, and we will do it very soon. So you have an updated list, which will still be provisional. The final list will be updated at a later stage. But
no, just to insist that we're working very closely with member states to make sure that they appoint the authorities as soon as possible. We know that there is an interest on your side, and we're working with them.
Then once a national competent authority is appointed, member states also have to appoint a national service desk, which will be the desk responsible for giving you the credentials to be the reporting declarant and access the registry. So once the member states have a national competent authority appointed, then please contact the national service desk as we presented in the presentation to get the necessary credentials. We had a lot of questions about issues that we covered in the sector-specific webinars in the past. So we encourage you to watch the recordings online. You will find a lot of detailed answers which will address the questions that you raise. For instance, on the default values, you may have a look at the GRC report, which is already online, and there's a link on our webpage. It will provide you with the necessary information, and we will publish the default values by the end of the year. Please note that it is a flexibility introduced for the transitional period, in particular for the first CBAM reports, but please be aware that there are some limitations for the use of the default values, and everything is explained in the sector-specific webinars. Also, a topic that we covered during the sector-specific webinars is the cases where there is a challenge in the communication between the operators of installations located in non-EU countries and the importers. The communication flows between the operators of installation, so basically the one managing the installation producing the CBAM goods, to be exported into the EU, and of course the importer. This is very important, and like we said during the presentation, CBAM requires a regular dialogue between them. It is very important that, especially when the supply chains contain different intermediaries, that information flows along the chain so that the importer can comply with the CBAM reporting obligation. This is very important, and to help you with that, we have developed two tools. One is in annex of the implementing regulation. It's called the recommended communication between operators and importers. And on this basis, we have developed a communication template, which is an Excel file that you can use to exchange information between the importers and operators of installation. And we strongly encourage you to use that Excel sheet to facilitate the collection of information, especially where importers import goods from different installations and countries, or when one installation produces goods which are then exported to the EU via different importers. There were also a lot of questions about what the CBAM goods are. So it's very important that you, as a first step, to know whether you are impacted by the CBAM, you check the CN codes of the goods that you import into the EU against the CN codes listed in Annex 1 of the CBAM regulation. And then for further guidance and information on how to calculate the embedded emissions, it's very important that you do two things to learn about the CBAM. Is first, of course, watch the recordings of the sector-specific webinar that is of interest for you. And of course, read the guidance document that is for you, either the one for importers or the one for operators of installation. There was a question about the possibility for operators of installation to access the registry. So as a general rule, only the reporting declarants can access the registry, besides, of course, the national authorities and the Commission. However, there will be later a possibility for operators of installation to upload some information directly into the registry. So not the transitional registry, but the CBAM registry for the definitive period, so that more information will be pre-filled when reporting declarants will connect to submit CBAM reports, and my colleagues will be able to provide more information on that. There were also some questions about the customs representation. It's very important to stress again that there can be only one reporting declarant to avoid multiple reporting of embedded emissions for the same good imported into the EU, even though it is the same good is imported into different member states. So there can be only one CBAM report by reporting declarant covering the same CBAM good, even though it then goes to different member states. Very important to stress that for the custom representation, again, there can be only one reporting declarant, either the importer himself, if the importer chooses to do it on his behalf, or the indirect custom representative. In that case, the indirect custom representative must agree to take over the CBAM obligations, or if he does not, then he must inform the importer that he will not do it. But there can be only one reporting declarant, and this is very important to stress because we receive some questions about the custom representation. Then there was some questions about countries which are non-EU countries, but yet exempted from CBAM. So we have two situations. The countries, non-EU countries, which fully apply the EU ETS, emission trading system. So basically, they are subject to the same carbon price as the one in the EU. So the EEA countries, they are excluded from the CBAM for that reason. And also countries which are fully linked with the EU ETS. And then all these countries in one of the groups are fully outside the scope of the CBAM. So if, as an importer, you import goods from that country, you are outside the CBAM. I will stop here and have a look whether some further questions are sent, but I will give the floor to my colleagues for the IT-related questions.
Yes, thank you, Maxime. Hello, everybody. So I see there are several questions, most of them about how to update the registry. I would like to say that we're going to have some technical webinars to provide detailed guidance on the form fill-in. This will be organized in November. We will communicate this next week. And I would also like to say that we're going to publish today the user manual for declarants, which contains information like, for example, the XSD file to upload the forms with XML, to the central registry. Okay, there are some other questions. Okay, about credentials. Okay, you can either reuse the credentials that we have in the national customs systems, if depending if the NCA is using, agreed to use these credentials for user management of the declarants, or you will need a new login account dedicated for the CBAM registry. But this information will be made available by the NCA as soon as it is, assuming it is appointed. And you must also, if you have any issues, technical issues, you must report them to the NCA, and they will inform us to investigate if needed. Yes, and we will explain in detail the form in the upcoming webinars. Okay, I hope we have provided some interesting information today for you. Okay, I don't see some other questions that I can reply right now.
There was also a question regarding the access to the testing environment.
Yes, this is important. Yes, sorry, I missed this. So we have a conformance environment, not only a production environment. In the production environment, as Maxime mentioned, you cannot start reporting until 1st of January. The reporting functionality is locked until the reporting period starts. But in the conformance environment, and the NCA can give you access to this environment as well with the same or another account, depending on the situation. You can view the full form and go through the different tabs and fields in the structure of the report to familiarize with the report to be filled in, if you will fill it in manually using the form, because maybe most of you would like to prepare an XML and upload it during the reporting period. I don't know if there is any other question that I can reply right now.
Just to say that, again, there will be further webinars organized with some more sector-specific content. So even if we have missed some of the questions, we received a lot and we apologize for that. There will be other webinars in the coming weeks, likely next month, to guide you through more concretely how to use the CBAM Transitional Registry with some, again, sector-specific content. We are also working very hard, like David said, with the national competent authorities, so with the member states. We are also working very hard on updating the relevant material that we publish online, and we showed you these materials. So we will have very soon an updated provisional list of national competent authorities. And we are also working on updating the Q&A document because we received a lot of questions and we did our best to answer the questions orally during the webinars, but we will use that as basis to update the Q&A, which will be much more comprehensive. And we are also working, but for a bit later, on the update of the guidance document. So we thank you for...
No, just from looking at the chat, I realize that in many countries you do not yet have access to the registry, and it may be a source of frustration. I also see that in some countries, some of you have access and have experienced that if you are already familiar with the customs trader portal, the access to the CBAM registry is rather an easy process. And I want to reassure those of you in the countries where the national competent authorities are not yet in place and where the national service desks are not yet in place that we are really working on it. And once it will be in place, you will face an environment which is rather a familiar one and one that you can deal with. Of course, as Georgios was saying, the idea, well, the registry is designed so that you can upload an XML file and limit as well, limit or avoid completely human interaction. So it is designed to facilitate compliance. We know that collecting the information on the emissions in the first months will be very complicated, and that's one of the reasons why there are flexibilities until mid 2024. And as Maxime was saying, well, we will continue sharing information and trying to make it easier. Thanks.
So I think that we can close this webinar. We thank you very much for your participation to this webinar. We apologize in advance if we could not answer all of the questions because we received a lot. But again, we are working very hard on updating the Q&A that we will publish very soon, hopefully. And there are still some other occasions for you with the further webinar with some more sector-specific content. With this word, we thank you again, and we wish you a very good day to you all. Thank you. Goodbye.